simulcasting on the NBA Report, and we are simulcasting right now on KnicksFanTV, the number one show for the fans by the fans. So shout out to everybody watching on the NBA Report side, and shout out to everybody watching on the KFTV side. Happy Friday as we hit the reset on this simulcast. CP the franchise in the building. Joining me today, he is the founder, the creator, the CEO of Scoop B Radio, Scoop B Enterprises, longtime NBA analyst and NBA reporter. Literally been doing it since a child. Scoop B in the building, man. So we've been just kind of going through some of the main storylines of the NBA, but I got to get your thoughts, Scoop, on my New York Knicks. 5-3 on the campaign under the Mike Brown era, the pace and space era, as they call it. What's been your impression so far, man? 8 games in. What's been your impressions?
I like it. I think that when you look at 8 games in, that's like asking me to look at the first couple of days of school. I think I look at things in 10-game increments, so we're close to about 10 games. I think right now the thing that has been impressive to me is Mitchell Robinson's hustle. I think that is something that they were missing last season that they're getting now, in the sense that you can't just solely depend on Karl Anthony Towns to get you what you need. Karl Anthony Towns, to me, is such a special player that can legitimately play positions 3 through 5, but really 4 and 5 is what his role with the Knicks. But you know what you're getting with Brunson. You know what you're getting with Bridges, and I think it's all about putting it together. And I like what I've seen so far, but they got work to do.
Yeah, for sure. New season, new coach, a new system to get acclimated to. There's been an adjustment period. Karl Anthony Towns has admitted to that adjustment period. Josh Hart has spoken about that adjustment, adjusting to a new role and adjusting to playing through a multitude of injuries. And so far, coming out the gate slow, but he's starting to pick up steam. You mentioned Mitch Robinson, who I'm going to get to in a short, but to me, the one guy who hasn't needed that much of an adjustment is the captain, Jalen Brunson. It's Jalen Brunson right now. He's playing at his all-star level, and had it not been for a little bit of a dip in the threes, he might be going, he's averaging 28 points per game right now. He could be up to 30 if he was making some of his threes. And, we started the NBA Report speaking of John Morant and his inability to adjust, new system, new philosophy. Jalen Brunson has no issues right now, man. His dribbles per touch are coming down. His time of possession is coming down. And right now, he's flowing. He's facilitating the offense. He's running the offense when he has the ball in his hands. He's getting more catch and shoot opportunities, knocking those down. Jalen Brunson's looked phenomenal so far, man.
The epitome of an Escalade with Lamborghini doors. He is all-purposing, all-encompassing for that Knicks team. Is going to give you everything you need. He doesn't hurt you, and he helps you in every stretch of the imagination, from scoring and more. I think Stephon Marbury, Knicks legend, put this on his
Steph.
Friend of the program. He put on his stories the other day. On his Instagram stories, he said Jalen Brunson is the point guard for the first 3 quarters, and then in the 4th quarter he goes off. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he knows when to take over, but he also knows when to play composed. I think he's in a good situation. I still think this is the same Knicks team from last year, just with more freedom and more oomph to be themselves. But I also think that health is going to play a big part for Brunson, because I remember at the beginning of last season, we were talking about everybody being healthy, and then wasn't Brunson the first to go down last year, and then it was Towns after the fact?
Yeah, Cap had the ankle injury. That was the most debilitating one, where he actually missed a ton of time, was the ankle injury later on in the year. And Towns' injuries were a bit kind of over the course of the season. He kind of picked up a lot of nagging injuries.
Right, and I feel like when you talk about pacing and breathing and just being in a certain system or mode, I feel like the Knicks are learning from last season. And last year, there was an expectation that the Knicks were going to go to the finals. This year is an expectation they have to go to the finals. But you got to protect your Escalade with Lamborghini doors. You can't just have it sitting out in front of Marcy Projects. You got to have that in the garage. So you're protecting your investment, and you're easing them in, knowing when to sit them, when to rest them. I think it's the right level of spacing and balancing.
Yeah, and right now, again, early, we'll see. You say you like to look at things every 10 games. Me, I'm more so like every 20 games. So that's when I'll kind of do my report, chop it up in fourths, and see where they are after the first quarter as I define it. But so far, they're getting some early returns from Mike Brown. As you said, getting your guys to the postseason healthy is a big challenge. Even though the Knicks got there relatively healthy last year, it kind of seemed like by the time they got to Indiana, they really didn't have much left in the tank. And so this is where Mike Brown comes in, because he's not only implementing a system that is a little bit less predictable, and we're seeing that the Knicks ball movement has been incredible so far, top 10 in passes made so far, but he's also going into that bench and being rewarded. Clarkson, Hart, Deuce, picking it up.
I think it's interesting you bring up the Pacers, right? So when you look at while I do look at things every 10 games, I also look at things incrementally through Thanksgiving, and then from Thanksgiving to Christmas, and then Christmas to the All-Star break. And I feel like after the All-Star break, you can kind of tell who the top 3 seeds are, top 4 maybe, and then who's your David and Goliath, the David within the Goliath and David story, like a Sixers team in the early 2000s when he went to the finals, or in this case, an Indiana Pacers team last year. And I feel like when you looked at the Pacers last year, they were unafraid. But just like they started off slow and they ended up building momentum when they knocked out Goliaths in Cleveland and Milwaukee and then the Knicks, I feel like the way to counter that is to kind of play the way you're playing, the way the Knicks are playing and spacing things out, because somebody's going to get hurt, man. I don't wish that on anybody. I just think this year of having expectations for the Knicks just smells different than last year, because you've been there.
Right.
When you've been there and you fail, you have a better understanding of what it is to be the top dog the following year, and then to kind of know what ebbs and flows are going on throughout the course of the season, and you recognize that from the year before. I feel like to go back to that point about Brunson, I actually feel like Brunson getting hurt last season actually benefited the Knicks, because they saw what it was like to play without him and they simulated it. And it actually made Mikal Bridges a better player, because it allowed himself to see what the other team's offenses were giving him, and he was able to adjust accordingly.
Yeah, and Mikal Bridges having an outstanding year. And you mentioned the word dog. I got to bring in my guy. I got to evoke my guy, the dog, OG Anunoby, who is having an outstanding year. He led the Knicks in scoring against the Timberwolves, 25 points, 8 rebounds. He was the player of the game, no doubt, averaging 18 on the campaign, 40% from 3. He's playing at an all-defense level right now. When we look back at the trade, man, I'm looking at the Raptors message boards, and they're going, they're a little bit down on my guys, RJ and Quickly, but here in New York, OG Anunoby he's really shining, man. He's having a fantastic year once again.
Yes. I'm happy to see OG Anunoby play in a system where it benefits him. But I also feel like he can play in any system. I think he's so very underrated as a player, because he's not loud and obnoxious. He just shows up and does what he needs to do. And but he fits in a Knicks system that's predicated upon defense. But it's also got some scorers within that defensive schematic. So I like OG Anunoby. RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly, I think they did their time with the Knicks, and the Knicks moved on to bigger and better. I think Toronto has to be patient, though, because this is not an Atlantic Division team that's going to run things. The Nets aren't running things. The Raptors aren't running things. I think the Raptors are going to have a better showing than the Nets are this year. The Sixers, I think, are going to probably be the second tier within the Atlantic Division, and unless the Celtics have something up their sleeve. But I think Toronto Raptors fans have to be a little bit more patient, because this isn't what RJ and Quickly asked for either.
Yeah. That is true. The Ingram trade was a little bit of a head scratcher, so they just seem to be a team that's just kind of work in progress and kind of just going with the flow right now. But as it relates to the rest of the East, obviously the Knicks are hyped at the top, and Cleveland's up there at the top. We mentioned the Celtics earlier, just in terms of, hey, could they make a splash in a John Morant deal? Who else do you think in the East could potentially, by the deadline or so, make a move? Because after that top tier, it's wide open, man. When you think about Milwaukee And hey, Philly's playing very well right now with the guys that they have. Paul George hasn't even played yet. Will the Pacers make a move, even though they've been losing without Halliburton? Who do you think's that team that could make a jump by the deadline?
I think the Pacers would make plausible sense to me, just because nobody's expecting much from them. We talked about Boston. I still do see Boston making some sort of move because there were things, iterations of moves that that front office had discussed uh, closing the season and even in the off season, and they didn't really, you know, other than Porzingis and Holiday, there wasn't a huge any other moves with their stars. I still do think that the Anthony Simons, the intrigue of him is interesting. But I think that the Pacers and the Celtics in the Eastern Conference will probably be the two teams. I also look at Atlanta, particularly with their point guard being out for a while, for a little while, and then if they're looking to make a deep run in the playoffs as a sleeper, I would envision they would be looking to make some sort of move. Also, those are some of the teams that I think could make moves. But as you made mention of in the Eastern Conference, I think so much was made of the offseason with Giannis and his next move, if there's a move, that everybody just thought it was a preconceived notion that the Knicks were going to run everything, the Cavs were going to run everything, and they forgot about Milwaukee. And I think Milwaukee has something to prove, and they showed that. What was that, a week or two ago against the Knicks?
Yeah, ran him out the gym in the second half.
Yeah, they did. And then, I also think that Orlando, just the study of them over the last few years, that Orlando team reminds me so much of Boston in 2018. I think it was when they kept going toe to toe with LeBron's Cavs and they were losing and learning. I think they're still missing a piece or two. I was watching that national game the other day. I'm not sure what that piece is, but I would imagine that they would be making a deal sometime at the deadline as well.
I wouldn't. It wouldn't shock me if Detroit jumped in the mix, man. Especially the way that Cade is playing. They're getting good play from Durant and Isaiah Stewart playing in the front court together. The Ivy thing, they haven't been able to evaluate that just yet. But I look at Detroit. They're sitting there with some assets. They did sign Duncan Robinson and Caris LeVert to, in this landscape, what would be considered more flexible deals for them. But with their capital, I'm just wondering if Trajan Langdon's sitting there looking like, hey, does he call his boy Joe Dumars and say, hey, what do you want for that guy that's out right now with a hamstring injury? He's always out. But could this be a time to take a low risk, high reward move on Zion?
Williamson, are you?
What's that?
You're not talking about Zion Williamson, are you?
Yeah. I'm talking about Zion, man.
It's interesting. My reporting over at Scoopy.com. Late last Friday, something about Fridays. Last Friday, I put something out about Willie Green. This Friday, my reporting about John Morant. But what I can share with you is that there is definitely an interesting power struggle in New Orleans with the Pelicans, with their head coach. From just conversations that I've had with people in the know over New Orleans, it seems that they wanted him gone last year, talking about Willie Green. And the only person on that team that spoke well of him, and he's no longer a member of that team, is C.J. McCollum. C.J. McCollum wanted to keep him in position in New Orleans. But the other factor is that Willie is well received by Gail Benson, the majority owner. And he's in a situation where he's remaining from the past infrastructure. And it's also my understanding that Gail Benson and David Griffin were at odds. And in order for Willie to have stayed, there was an agreement that was made that Willie has to stay, Griffin has to go, and Dumars and Willie Green have to figure things out. And that's where we are now. But ultimately, Gail Benson has the last say. Every indication that I have gotten in New Orleans suggests that Joe Dumars and Zion Williamson are on the same page. There was conversations going into the draft where the Pelicans were monitoring Giannis's situation with the Bucks aligned with the draft, and ultimately Dumars and Zion Williamson figured things out. And so, with that being said, every indication that I've gotten as recently as 2 days ago suggests that Zion as well as Joe Dumars, as well as Gail Benson, are on the same page in New Orleans. I don't see that happening, but as we mentioned with the Memphis Grizzlies, you dangle the right thing, you answer that call, things could change. I have
Hmm.
no indication that that is a factor, but it would be something attractive to look at. I'll just say Zion Williamson on the Detroit Pistons, that's a squad.
Yeah. Look, I think again, just from a basketball standpoint, 'cause I got Knicks fans going to be in the chat like, CP, don't be advocating to make Detroit better. But yeah, they're very territorial. But I'm just saying, from an outside looking in, from a fly on the wall in the NBA landscape, for Detroit, again, you got capital. You have a low risk opportunity here to make a splash because as is, look, they can overachieve only but so much. I don't think look, the Pacers made it all the way to finals. I don't see that with Detroit. I just don't see them with the right firepower to get there. I think it's a move worthwhile looking into.
But I'll say to you, the Pistons could not cut the cake against the Knicks in the playoffs in the end. A healthy Zion running them out the building. What is he, like 23, 24, 25, somewhere between 23 and 25?
Yeah.
He's the spark plug as a scorer that they could use. I think you bring up a very both logical and plausible point when you talk about Duncan Robinson, particularly at the deadline and or the buyout market where teams need three-point shooters for hire. He fits that mold. Miami, disappointed that didn't work out, but you said something that really made a lot of logical sense. An attractive three-point shooter, attractive on the court, would definitely be beneficial to any team looking to compete. Is that New Orleans? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
The way it's phrased to me, the Pelicans, the ownership of that ownership group, football comes first. Benson also an owner of the
Saints. Mm-hmm.
With that being said, look, they might, just because I know football is their first. I haven't heard anything to suggest that, however.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye out on things on this Friday here. NBA Cup is back tonight, man. What are you thinking about some of the matchups tonight? Have you taken a look at the schedule?
No, I was busy breaking stories.
Well, one for me, I think Houston and San Antonio are going head-to-head tonight, man. So you got Wemby and Sengun shooting a fair one tonight, man.
That's going to be a good one. I'll tell you this specifically because of the backstory. You said it was Houston and San Antonio tonight, correct?
Yeah.
And so I can tell you that many people thought that Kevin Durant was going to go to the San Antonio Spurs and that the Spurs were going to trade Phoenix's second pick to them in order to get him. And I'm told that San Antonio never wanted to trade that second pick to Phoenix and promised Dylan Harper that they were going to draft him because they wanted to focus on their youth movement. And so if I'm Kevin Durant, I take that as a revenge game. You didn't want me, I'm going to show you what you're missing. But if I'm San Antonio, I'm feeling like I have something to prove if I'm Wemby, particularly because some people compare Wemby to either Bobo or Kevin Durant and some of the other guys that are tall and lanky, even Giannis is at large. So that's going to be something very interesting to look at. San Antonio's youth movement playing against a more seasoned Kevin Durant with the fixings of an Amen Thompson and some of the other guys as well as Sengun. Sengun is playing lights out. Many people look at him as a blue-collar Jokic. I think he's his own man, and I enjoy watching his style of play.
You got some interesting ones here. So they'll tip off at 7:30, a little bit earlier for those two Midwest teams, if you want to consider them that. Then you got Golden State and the Nuggets. So that's the Amazon Prime doubleheader. So that's a good matchup. A Magic and Celtics going at it at 7 o'clock. So they'll tip off in just a little under 1 hour. You have the Bulls and the Bucks, battle of Central Division supremacy there, and I think the Knicks will be able to gain ground in the loss column on one of these teams, whoever loses. So I think those are pretty much the highlights of tonight's NBA Cup matchups. Rockets, Spurs, Golden State, Nuggets, Magic, Celtics, Bucks, Bulls, and that's pretty much it.
I'm looking forward to Bucks Bulls.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. That's gonna be a good one, man, for sure. Let the people know where they can find you and anything coming up on the pipeline.
Scoopy Radio, available on streaming platforms. We just dropped an interview with Daryl Strawberry yesterday.
Shout out to Daryl, man.
Sir,
He
I was
just he,
actually
he just got pardoned today. Did you see that?
he did. He got pardoned, and praying for his wife, whose health is getting better. So yeah, we dropped that this week. I was actually featured on Forbes.com this week.
Nice. Congratulations, man.
Sir, because of Scoopy Radio and the story there and how we got started. And so, my team and I are definitely excited to start the season and just continue to grow and travel on the road next week. So you'll be seeing a lot of new stuff pumping on Scoopy.com as well as Scoopy Radio. Check that out on all streaming platforms as well as Scoopy.com.
There you go, man. Well, continue to keep up the good work. You're a guy who's always on the grind. I'm always watching, man. I'm always tapping in and just seeing how you're moving and seeing how you maneuver. And you've been doing it for a decade long, so more than that. So congratulations, man. Keep it up. And it's the first time here with us, but won't be the last. And we appreciate your time, man.
So thank you for the opportunity to be myself.
Yes, sir. All right, once again, that was our guy, Scoop B, man. Salute to everybody in the chat. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. Shout out to Scoop for joining us today. And shout out to everybody watching on the KFTV side. We're not done. We got to get to our fan mailbag show on the KFTV side. On the NBA report side, we are going to shut it down. We will see you guys on the NBA report next Friday, covering the week at large around the NBA. So shout out to everybody who's watching on the NBA report side. If you're on the NBA report side, come on over to KFTV so we can finish up today's show. And if you guys are on KFTV, make sure you guys are going over to the NBA report to subscribe to the channel. All right, so NBA report, we're going to log off now. We'll see you guys next Friday. Okay, on the KFTV side, salute to my guys, my franchise channel members in the building. No, we didn't do the stirred. We didn't do the mailbag yet. We're going to do the mailbag now. Shout out to you. We got your question in here. Smooth Guitar, we got your question in here. My guy, Janelle Torre, holding us down in the ATL. Will Latimer also in the ATL. Coach Rubin, salute to you. Appreciate your help earlier today. Quentin Gillum, 5803. I see you in here. Shout out to Quentin Gillum and everybody in the chat. There was no Friday Night Knicks on today, man. I was like, man, what are we going to do? I woke up today like, damn, we don't got a game on tonight. So I said, we got to do our normal Friday show for the people anyway. But I said, oh, man, no Knicks on tonight. But we still tapped in anyway. Eric L. Beats on the check-in. LD on the check-in. Salute to you guys. So the Knicks will be taking on the Brooklyn Nets on Sunday, 6 o'clock. Should be a W there. Hey, it's look, you don't want to overlook anybody by any stretch, but should be a W for the Knicks. And then you get to 6-3, head into next week, and we keep it cooking. So Knicks have an opportunity here to get right back on track on the winning side of things, and I think they're going to do just that. I thought they finished off the Timberwolves in style. Great job sending Julius and those guys packing, and Ant-Man. The dog is looking fantastic, as I said. Jalen Brunson as well. Scoopy talked about the Block Ness Monster, Mitchell Robinson. So things are clicking right now. But as he said, health is going to be the key for these guys. And I couldn't agree more. Knicks are going to have to show that they can stay healthy. And, hey, that is no guarantee in this league. We had a great show on the NBA report, too, man. We talked about John Morant, some trade ideas for John Morant. And we also talked about LeBron James and his pending looming return. Chaotic Anime in the building. Do things. Salute. Do things in the building. Salute to you guys. All right. Oh, we got Rico Solomon, CP, shouting you out from Saudi Arabia. Okay, Rico, salute to you. What are you doing out there in Saudi, man? Are you stationed out there? What are you doing out there, man? Either way, enjoy it, and we appreciate you tapping in from all the way out there. Okay, so let's get to the Fan Friday portion of the show. And I think I'm going to do this every Friday for our franchise channel members, those who they donate to the show. We appreciate everybody for doing that, for sure. And so we're gonna do this every Friday where we poll questions from our illustrious franchise channel members, and I will answer them. Okay, so let's rip the bow off this one. Stirred, you up first. So coming up first is our guy Stirred, and their question is: How proud of you with your broadcasting growth and growth of KFTV team as you approach 100,000 subscribers. Me personally, seeing everyone's progression over time has been great to watch. Yeah, and my answer to that, man, extremely proud. Extremely proud of the growth of this channel. Extremely proud of the progression of the channel. And as you said, of everybody that is here now presently and everybody that has came and went. As we mentioned, guys, like, I mean, look at Ashley. Look at what Ashley's doing these days. I told you guys about Bailey Lau. He's gone on to the Miami Heat. You know, go all the way back to KnicksFanTV Dave. He's going to ESPN. So this platform has not only served as a community, as a platform for us to get our takes across about the Knicks, but for young talent, it's also been a launching pad for people to continue their career. So I'm extremely proud of that. You know, we're 9 years. This is year 9, man. Time has flown. More gray hairs in my beard. But we have grown. We have definitely grown. And I didn't know where this would take us, but I just knew that we were going to stay consistent with this. And I made a promise to myself that I was never going to put this thing down. I was never going to quit. And so through the consistency and the support, we are here. So we want to thank the fans. We want to thank our team, because there is a big team behind the camera that you guys have. A lot of you guys don't even know of. Yeah, you know of the Alexes and the JDs, the CKs and the Knicks chicks and everybody else. But there's a big team behind the scenes that keeps the machine going 24/7. So we want to thank our entire team, because we have a lot of talent behind the camera that makes us great. Also, the partnerships that we've been able to connect with over the years. Again, I'd say it all the time. Ian Begley is the guy. He is the guy. When we first started, SNY was the first platform to come to us, to bring me in as a creator to speak on the game. And now you see, you know, it's opened up doors for a lot of people. We had an opportunity. Shout out to the Ryan Animal Chuck D. Like, there's been so many people that have been instrumental to the growth of this platform. Certainly don't want to single people out, but I think in the grand scheme of things, I'm very proud. And as we hit 100K, it's a testament to the consistency and all of the forces that have been involved in making this thing great. You know, what do you have to, one thing we can't discredit, and one thing we can't forget, what we're doing here is very revolutionary. You see it now where everybody has podcasts and things of that nature, but it wasn't always the case. What we've done had never been done before. We're operating in the number one media market, covering sports, covering the Knicks on a 24/7 basis, and it has opened up so many doors for us, to the point where we've opened up doors into the NBA, into the Knicks itself. So this has never been done before. And now you're seeing, if you look around, look what a lot of these major media networks are doing now. Look at Yahoo with their partnerships with my guy Ariel Helwani, with Kevin O'Connor. Look at what the Peacock is doing with Kenny and our guys Pierre, numbers on the board. The NFL, they're bringing in content creators. So at one point, when trying to break into sports, the barriers of entry were so high because you had limited platforms and limited spots. Now, as I always say, the creators have the mic. We have the microphone. We have the power to launch our own brands, our own entities on an independent wave, and have it be a standalone, sustainable platform. And this is what we have right now. So, you know, don't think that because you see everybody going live with a microphone that it's just easy to do. No, this is year 9. And think about the statistics. 90% of podcasts will flop after the 3rd episode. 90%. 75% will quit after 1 year. We're in year 9. We are almost at 100,000 subscribers. 1 million views per month. 1,000 subscribers per month. That's a testament to consistency and the support. We're defeating the odds, right? I don't have my against all odds hat. Is it here? Is this it? No, this is my New York versus World. We're up against the odds, ladies and gentlemen. Talking Yanks. Look at Talking Yanks. They've got investments now from Major League Baseball. They've got their own show on the YES Network. So I'm very proud, man. Very proud. But thank you for the question. And shout out to Sturd on the question. Okay, next question goes to Smooth Guitar. Says, salute. Now that it seems Josh Hart is returning to form, do you think there will be occasions where coach puts him in as a starter? Will Josh Hart come in as a starter? Certainly possible. I think one of the things that Mike Brown has shown us is in these short 8 games is that he's willing to experiment. On nights when Mitch Robinson has not been available, we've seen, even when he is available, we've seen Deuce McBride get a start. We've seen Landry Shamet get a start. Could Josh Hart start with the 5? I wouldn't say never say never. You just don't know. And one thing, early season returns, Josh Hart in that original starting 5, they're plus 24 net rating so far. Limited possessions, only 79 possessions, but they're plus 24 right now in net rating. And last year, even though they had their moments being at the top, they came back to the pack and they were about plus 4.1 net rating, that starting 5. In the playoffs, it seemed like they had negative returns. So early returns are saying that he's playing well with those guys. They're developing their chemistry. And so could he ultimately get into the starting lineup? Maybe. But what we saw from Mitch Robinson, unless Mitch is injured, Mitch ain't coming out that starting 5. He's not coming out that starting 5. I highly doubt it. But what do you guys think in the chat? Josh Hart, will he start eventually with that starting 5? One thing's for sure, it's been great to see him there and thriving. I'm going to take a quick break in between the questions and shout out one of our sponsors of today's show, and that is Square. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. And when we talk about neighborhood spots and especially small businesses, they are the lifeblood of every community. So the support of small businesses is vital because it comes back and takes care. They will come back in turn and take care of their community. You know, these are the businesses that make the neighborhood, the places that become an extension of home. When the neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And when you have your businesses in your local neighborhoods thriving, that dollar, at least the intention is that dollar will be recycled throughout the neighborhood so that everybody can take advantage of that. So take this ad as an excuse to go out there and support your local spot and have yourself a day in the neighborhood. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. All right, so go to square.com/go/KFTV to learn more. But before you do, go support your local neighborhood spot or your favorite neighborhood spot because you'll be happy you did. Shout out once again to Square. See you in the neighborhood. Okay, once again, shout out to our guys at Square for sponsoring today's show. That's the website, once again, is square.com/go/KnicksFanTV/KFTV. Make sure you guys go there to learn more. Okay, back to the questions here. Let me just make sure I'm cycling through. We got Smooth. Okay, next one up here is Jay. I need my glasses for this one. Okay, Jay's question, J10892, says, what does a finals run and potential championship actually look like for a team as constructed, for this team as constructed? I ask because I'm finding it hard to imagine a championship team whose 2 best players are negative on defense. We obviously can't win without Brunson and Cat firing on all cylinders, but also having them on the floor together creates such a hole for the team to dig out of on the defensive end. It's a tough predicament that the team is going to have to figure out soon, as in this tight window the Knicks have. Great question. Absolutely great question. And I would say, in order for the Knicks to accomplish the goal and to accomplish the mission, it is a great question because there aren't many teams in championship history that had two weaknesses on the defensive end and were able to win a championship. It's not an easy thing to do because you can hide one guy. It's harder to hide two. But where I think the Knicks can be successful with both of these guys, number one, yes, it requires both of these guys to be playing at an all-star level. Knicks can't win if either one of those guys are struggling in the playoffs, which is what I call money time. So first and foremost, you need those guys to be playing at their peak powers. Number two, staggering the lineups to find the optimal offensive and defensive pairings with those guys running in as individuals is going to be key. What one of the callers mentioned earlier this week, I think it was William J., he talked about it in the Timberwolves game where Brunson and Towns weren't necessarily on the court, sharing the court in a lot of times, and both of them were able to thrive on their own. And Towns has really been getting it popping with that second unit with Deuce and Clarkson and Hart and Mikal Bridges. That allows Karl Anthony Towns to be one of the facilitators and also have guys that can play off of him, and then Jalen Brunson as well. Then you're able to find good combinations of offense and defense to keep yourself afloat. So I think staggering the lineups will also help. And then you will also clock management. Little things like clock management will also play into this, where you want Mike Brown and the coaching staff to be able to have the timeouts allocated, manage the clock right, where you can get into late game situations where you can sub out JB or you could sub out Cat if you need to put in a better defender. You can sub out JB to put in Deuce. You can sub out Cat. Maybe you need Josh Hart, or maybe you need somebody else for rebounding, or you got to get a little bit smaller with Mitch out there. So staggering, managing the late game situations so you can have your best defenders out there. Those are the ways that I think these two guys can get you that chip and coexist at the same time. Yes, there's going to be moments where they're starting and finishing games together for sure. They're your two best players. You're going to have to. But how you manage the rest of the rotation around them, I think will allow the Knicks to accomplish that goal. What do you guys in the chat think about that? Okay, let's get to the next question here. Good question. Definitely good question. Okay, next question is C. Fortune Official. So what do you think about OG's start to the season and how he's looked on both ends of the floor so far, specifically in Mike Brown's offense? I think OG Anunoby has looked absolutely fantastic this year. And could an all-star year be loading for OG Anunoby? Because he's looked absolutely phenomenal on both ends of the floor. Specifically offensively in Mike Brown's offense, which prioritizes cutting. That's one of OG Anunoby's primary strengths. And he's able to finish at the basket very well. He finishes at the basket at close to 70%, which is great for the Knicks because if you go back prior to him, the Knicks didn't have a lot of guys who could finish at the rim. OG Anunoby is one of the best on the entire team at doing so. So when you look at his ability to finish at the rim at a 70% clip, and also the fact that he's shooting the three at almost 7 a game at 40%, that's almost like a modern NBA shot chart or shot diet. He's getting the high percentage buckets, and he's getting you your threes in an efficient clip. Another thing I like about OG Anunoby is the fact that Mike Brown is prioritizing the corner threes. OG Anunoby shooting 13 to 25 from three. Him and Mikal Bridges are combined shooting 47% from three. So he's red hot. I also like the fact that he can play off of Karl Anthony Towns' gravity and Jalen Brunson. So when you have to pay attention to those guys, when you have to shoot the gaps and protect against Jalen Brunson's drives, OG Anunoby's cutting. When you have to have the guy step out, have to have the opposing big or the opposing wing step out to guard Karl Anthony Towns on the threes, OG Anunoby's diving to the basket. Then defensively, with the way that he's stealing the ball and turning teams over, he's creating so many extra possessions. It's phenomenal. So defensively, he's playing at an all-defensive pace. Offensively, he's unlocked. And one of the most underrated things about OG Anunoby this year that I like, his offensive rebounding percentage has increased quite a bit. And that was one thing that I talked about in the offseason was in terms of how the Knicks were going to deploy certain rotations. OG coming into the season was averaging last season, he was about 4.8 rebounds per game. I thought that was low for a guy of his size and of his caliber. He needed to increase that. Right now, he's up at 6 or better rebounds per game. And that his offensive rebounding percentage is also going up. So if you think about it, he's getting the Knicks extra possessions on the boards, defensively turning guys over, and then shooting the ball at an efficient clip. That, to me, deserves all-star recognition. And at 18 points per game, he could be on the outside looking in. But if the Knicks continue to win games to where they're one of the best top 1 or 2 teams in the East, or in the league, rather, he will get that consideration. And, hey, maybe when it comes to LA All-Star, OG Anunoby's on the East bench as a reserve. He would certainly be deserving if he continues to play like this. So, great question. Talento says 4 All-Stars this year. All right, so Talento's feeling pretty bold. 4 All-Stars. Okay. Next question goes to John Pettit, 6335, says, it looks like Kolek is out of the rotation. Do you see the Knicks trading Kolek and Pacone to free up some cap space in order to have flexibility to sign someone later for when guys get a buyout? Tough. I think that'll be determined by how the Knicks are performing by the break and also injuries. Right now, things seem to be clicking, especially when you think about, who's facilitating with that bench. Well, looks like they're going by committee, and you're seeing guys like Deuce, Clarkson, Josh Hart, Karl-Anthony Towns when he's playing with that unit, Mikal Bridges. Everybody seems to be handling the playmaking duties by committee. But, knock on wood, you hope that doesn't happen. But if somebody gets hurt, or the Knicks are not performing as well, and there seems to be a glaring need at the backup point guard spot or another position, backup center, then those guys will still be on the outside looking in. But for right now, I don't necessarily see the Knicks making a trading either one of those guys to bring in some depth. But again, that could change if they need it. And one of the players that Stephen Bondi mentioned in his article this week as a potential targets, 2 players, and you guys let me know in the chat what you think. Grand Theft Alvarado, Jose Alvarado of the Pelicans. Pelicans are going nowhere fast. They're going south one way. They're going one way in this league. They're going south. But Alvarado's tricky because he makes about $4.5 million. So for the Knicks, contracts got to match up. That's a bit tricky. Dadier alone's not going to get you there. He's at about 2.7, 2.8. Are you going to trade Dadier and Kolek? It's not clear. But Alvarado, you bring in Alvarado as like your deadline margin move, that'd be interesting. You bring that energy, pesky, pick you up 94 feet, grand theft. He'd be an interesting target. And then the other person Bondi mentioned, which I'm not so high on, is Dante Exum. 6'5", guard. Can shoot the 3. But he's injured. He hasn't even started the season yet for the Mavericks. He's got a sore left knee. So that's a little iffy. I certainly wouldn't make a trade for Dante Exum. I wouldn't be making a trade for Dante Exum. TJ Nelson, where do we post any questions we have? Okay, so this is for our channel members. These are people who pay every month, and so we did post in the community section, but only for franchise channel members. So if you do frequent the community section and you're not a member, you would not have seen the post to gather the questions. But we did put it in there for the franchise channel members in their section of the community section, and they were able to submit their questions. So that's where we're pulling it from. But good question by John Pettit. Okay, we have 4 more left, and here we go. Next question. Oh, this is a good one. Start, bench, G League, or cut. The Starks dunk LJ 4-point play, Allen Houston's runner versus Miami, or the DiVincenzo double bang versus Philly in the 24 playoffs? What do you guys think in the chat? I usually don't answer these start bench cut questions, but I like this one by Jack, and it had me, thinking nostalgically, so I did like that. So here's where I'm going to go. Hold your tomatoes, please. Here's where I'm going to go. We'll start with the cut. I'm going to cut the DiVincenzo double bang versus Philly 2024. Great moment, no doubt about it. The Garden was on fire. It was one of those moments where you remember where you were when that DiVincenzo 3 went down and Breen does the double bang. However, it was only game 2 of the first round of the playoffs. It was only game 2 of the first round of the playoffs. So, for that reason, I'm gonna cut it. All right? Sorry, guys, but I gotta cut that one. I know some of you guys are gonna disagree, especially some of the younger guys. Some of you younger guys are gonna disagree here, but I'm gonna cut that one. Now, G League is gonna go to the LJ 4-point play. Another one where it was one of those ones where you remember where you were when LJ hit it. The highlights, I talked to LJ about it. The Garden roof exploded. All of that. It was a significant moment against a rival. However, again, it was not the series clincher. It was not the series clincher. This was game 3. Okay? This was game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. It was not a series clincher. So I'm going to put the LJ 4-point play in the G League, whatever that means. Coming off the bench, we're down to 2. Coming off the bench, I'm going with Starks the dunk. Coming off the bench. This was Eastern Conference Finals. Madison Square Garden. Bulls versus Knicks. David versus Goliath. And that moment, first off, that moment was the earliest point of entry for me as a Knicks fan. That was the moment that made me fall in love with this team. It was a moment that had you believing, just for that second, that we could beat this team. And that the Knicks could upset the mighty Jordan and the Bulls. This was Eastern Conference Finals. Pressure cooker situation. And it's right here on my wall. The original poster. 1993. Whether you want to say he dunked on him or not, it wasn't about that. It was more symbolic. It was about the symbolism. About what it meant in that moment to all of New York. This is why we never forget it. So there we go. So last but not least, starting the Houston Runner versus Miami. The Houston Runner versus Miami. The stage was set. Knicks versus Heat. Rivals versus rival. Stark rivals. Van Gundy, Riley. It was all set. The Knicks the 8 seed, the Miami Heat the 1 seed. The Houston buzzer beater in the clinching game to knock out the Heat is getting the start. It's getting the start. It was a series clinching game. The game winner ultimately was the game winner. Your fiercest rival. And you knocked them out of the playoffs as the number 1 seed amidst all the expectations. So there it is. I'm cutting the DiVincenzo double bang. G League the LJ 4-point play. Bench the Starks dunk. And I'm starting the Houston Runner versus Miami. What do you guys think about the order? What do you guys think? That's where I'm going. And the Houston one, another one of those where you remember, no matter which call you were listening to, whether it was Gus Johnson or whether it was, I believe it was Tom Hammond, you knew where you were when that Houston shot went down. That's where I'm going. What do you guys think in the chat? Salute to everybody in the chat. Happy Friday. I'm sure I pissed some people off today, but that's okay. I'm loving it. We did get some super chats that came in, but I lost them. Okay, I see. Let me read some of these super chats that have come in. Hang tight. I'll read some of these super chats here. If you guys want to call in on the show, you guys can do that too. Shout out to Junior Caroma, $10 super chat, says you built a complete monster, CP, with this platform. It's only going to get bigger and better from here on out. Pause. Even in the Knicks Facebook groups, they recognize me because of KFTV. That's dope, man. That's so. Yeah, send me some of those groups, man. We do have the KFTV group on Facebook, which is doing very well. I think we got like 52,000 followers on Facebook. Facebook's a very underrated platform when it comes to this social media stuff. Very good. But yeah, shout out to everybody on the KFTV Facebook side. Bang! Shout out to Banger. Super chat says, salute. Do you think we should try to get Ja? No, sir. I do not think the Knicks should try to get Ja. No. But thank you, though. Yeah. Somebody in the chat says the Dante shot has to be top 3. Why does it have to be top 3? It was game 2 of the first round. And on a noise meter, that was not even louder than the LJ 4-point play. Or probably the Starks dunk. So how could I put it up there? AP says that Starks dunk didn't achieve nothing except piss Jordan off. Well, all I'm saying is it meant something to me. It meant something to me. You might be right, though. But that's where I'm going. In the grand scheme of things, the Devo shot, it doesn't compare. It was a great moment. But it doesn't compare. All right, moving and grooving. Raging pianist. Piano. It means piano. Raging piano guy. All right? To clarify. Says, if you can interview any guest on your show, dead or alive, who would it be? I think right now, if I could interview anybody right now from Knicks related, just to narrow it down. If I can interview anybody right now, Knicks related, dead or alive, it would have been the Captain Willis Reed. No question. That was one I wish I would have been able to speak to Willis prior to his passing on this platform. I had the good fortune of speaking to Dr. Dick Barnett. I also have interfaced and spoken to Clyde and numerous times, and I consider myself blessed to be able to do so. But I never got a chance to connect with Willis. And that was a shame for Willis Reed, for obvious reasons. I would have loved to have asked him about getting injured in the 70 finals against the Lakers, coming back in Game 7. The pain, how painful it was, going up against Chamberlain and going up against Wes Unseld, going up against Bill Russell, the true Titans, Titan Clash of the Titans, the Titans of the sport at the time. And winning the championship, the first championship in New York. What was the city like? What was it like playing alongside Clyde and Barnett? Ultimately Monroe and Phil, and what was the locker room like? How was it playing under Red Holtzman? I would have asked Willis all those questions. And also, the thing about Willis that really, when I spoke to Barnett, that really touched me was that it's so interesting that today's modern player, and we talk about the things that they're going through, the issues that they have. Like, we talked about Ja Morant. Oh, I'm not happy with the coach. I'm not happy. My joy is gone. When I spoke to Dr. Dick Barnett, and Willis Reed went through the same thing, these guys were playing basketball in a backdrop in a time in this country when their lives weren't even guaranteed from day to day. I mean, the amount of issues and harassment and things that they had to go through just to play basketball, especially in the Deep South. That is real adversity. That is real struggle. Not what today's pampered up athlete is dealing with, making 8-9 figures. Real life issues, real struggle in an era where guys had a full-time job and was hooping. So I would have loved to spoken to Willis about that, growing up in the Deep South of Louisiana, overcoming those the real adversity to accomplish his goal and live his dream and to play basketball at the highest level. That's a different type of person. That's a different type of strength. And when I spoke to Barnett, it was some of the most eye-opening things I ever heard. So I would have loved to have gotten Willis's perspective from that. Because coming up in rural Louisiana, you already know that he went through it. So good question. If Willis Reed would be my answer. Okay, next question, second to last one. Here we go. Shout out to Triple M. Says, what's the vibes with Mitch? He's a free agent next year. Of course, he's trying to get paid. I get what the Knicks want to keep fresh for the playoffs, and we need him for playoffs. But do you see a scenario where Mitch demands to play more on back-to-backs as he wants to be paid next year? What's the vibes with Mitch? Snitchy. You know what? Having not really spoken to him about that, I think Mitch he's shown me that he's a team-first guy. And clearly the plan for him to not play back-to-backs, and maybe he skips more games this year, I think it's a plan that makes sense for the organization and makes sense for his best interest. Yes, he wants to get the bag this year, but he's not going to get a bag if he can't play. So, sure, I'm sure every player wants to play and play 48 minutes and start and all of this, but everybody's got to do what's best. And Mitch, I think, understands getting to the playoffs and really helping his team win something real is the ultimate goal and the most important. So I don't necessarily believe that he'll have an ego in terms of playing on the back-to-backs. I'm sure, hey, if he could take a night off, go mess around with the trucks and chill out, I'm sure he'd take it. The one thing for sure with Mitch is that he wants to get involved. You got to feed him. Don't just have Block Ness out there doing all the work. You saw what he did in 16 minutes against the Timberwolves. Don't just have Block Ness out there running cardio. When you can find him, throw him a lob or something. Throw him a little something to get him involved offensively. You don't just want him out there just running laps. That's not fun. You got to make sure Mitch is having fun. If Mitch is having fun, he's going to be activated. 48 minutes. Well, in his case, 16. But whatever it is, you're getting the best of the Block Ness monster. He's got to have opportunities to score. So far, just fantastic. And, I'm happy that, again, he's able to show himself. The win against the Timberwolves, national TV game, ESPN. I'm happy that the Block Ness monster gets his just due and gets his flowers accordingly. So I think it'll happen. And I also think that both sides are treating the contract extension circumstances in the right way. For the Knicks, look, as much as I love Mitch, I wouldn't be in any rush to pay him right now. And for Mitch, why take a potential discount? You know the Knicks are going to try to offer him a discount. Why take a discount when you could let this thing ride out, have a great season? Hey, maybe you win a championship, and then your stock's through the roof. Then Daniel Gafford's calling you to borrow a dollar. So I think both sides are playing this thing out. Could they come to an agreement throughout the season? Hey, anything is possible. But I don't see why the Knicks would be hard pressed to get a deal done with him right now. Just let the market play out. And if they get to a point where they feel like they gotta crack that second apron to keep him, gotta do what you gotta do. Okay. And then we have here, shout out to Rare Edition. Shout out Rare Editions. So why do you think the Knicks fan culture feels so different, exciting, louder, even in bad, mediocre years compared to other NBA franchises? Great question. I love that question. And it also is interesting because today I found an old video that was in my phone. Sometimes I have so much content on my phone, on my computer and whatnot. So I found an old video from this Knicks fan that I ran into on the streets. And we got to talking about bandwagon fans. So it was actually right on cue for that clip. And I'm going to play it for you. But to answer your question, it's just the culture of New York, period. Where we are an old sports town that has had championship success, especially when you look at the Yankees, and the Giants have had their success. And hey, even the Mets and Jets and Knicks have won once upon a time, many moons ago. But I think that culture, because we are so old in terms of established in each sports league, that culture just permeates through time. And one thing about New York being an older sports town, it's generational. So that's a beautiful thing that you see about it. Especially you go to a Knicks game, you see from grandfather on down, father and son. You see mother and daughter. You see the family coming through, and so you can literally see the fandom being passed on from generation to generation. And it's very unique now in a time where, especially the younger generation who are more player focused and team focused, I think it's even more interesting now to see younger Knicks fans. I mean, we had a baby pull up to the KFTV watch party the other night at Slate. We had a family come through with the baby. It couldn't be more than 8 months old. Then we've also had people pull up to us on the watch parties or our events with younger children. So it's that. And it's also the fact that because the Knicks haven't won in over 50 some odd years, the hunger to get it done, it never leaves you. Especially when you get through the 90s. Because we were right there in the Jordan year. We were right there in 1994. We were right there. And so that yearning, it's an addiction. It's an addiction to dopamine. It's adrenaline. Especially those 90s and the rivalries that the Knicks had to get through to try to get to the promised land. They fell short, obviously. But to get that feeling again, that's what we're constantly chasing. This is why when they made the playoffs for the first time in 8 years when they made it for Knicks tape, when they got through, was a big time. But making it again the first time in 8 years during the pandemic, that's why the Garden almost exploded that night. I was there that night. You could feel it. I had goosebumps all over. You could feel it. The electricity in Madison Square Garden, that first playoff game against the Hawks. I was outside through that whole run last year, outside the Garden, the mayhem and all of that. And hey, whether it's your cup of tea or not, I loved it. I love seeing the celebrations, especially from the younger generation, because they never experienced anything like that. I saw it as a kid in the 90s. Even though it never translated to a chip. They got close. So that's why it's there. But anyway, here's the guy the clip that I played from last year. I literally just posted it this morning, right before Rare Edition's question. And this was the clip right here. Here we go. Hang on.
Them bandwagon Knicks fans, man. Talk about it, man.
Everybody watches the Knicks game.
Right.
And if we in the finals, everybody's going to watch it.
They going to pull up.
They're going to be like, yo, the Knicks. And then once we lose, they're going to be like, I knew y'all was going to lose.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Right.
They watch the whole time.
They watch the whole time. You ever hear them Knicks fans be like, I don't rock with the Knicks, but they tell you everything that's going on with the team. They know everything that's going on with the team.
They know the whole team.
Yeah.
They know the whole team. They be rocking with us. But once we lose, they be like, I knew y'all was going
Yeah.
to lose. Knicks fans, have fun. Enjoy.
So that was the guy talking about the bandwagons, but he's right. Everybody at home, you all got that one friend or that one family member that can't wait to tell you, I told you so, when the Knicks lose. They know everything about the team, but I can't do it. I can't do it. They're scared to commit. That's why. But as soon as they lose, they do this to us all the time. Starks, this, that. That's how it works, man. Then remember the little fake exodus to Brooklyn when the Nets moved? Oh, we got Jay-Z and we got this, and now we're going to get Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Boy, that was short-lived, wasn't it? City's under new management. Remember when they tried to tell us that? The city's under new management. How quickly we forget. So it's just funny, man. But at the end of the day, I love being a Knicks fan. This is why I'm here. 9 years going. Win, lose, or draw. We did this through a 17-65 season. 65 losses. 65 post-game shows of listening to Ari every night. Can you imagine that? I didn't get paid enough that year. 65 nights of listening to Ari whine and complain and be toxic about this team. It was brutal. Tough. Tough. So thank God these guys are winning things, man, because, man, I suffered for the love of the team. It's just funny, man. It's absolutely funny. Shout out to everybody in the chat once again. Hit that thumbs up button for you boys. Shout out to everybody that dropped questions, man. Great questions. Great questions. And we'll do another one on Friday. We'll absolutely do another one on Friday. So, salute to you guys. All right. Sunday, we will have the Knicks and the Nets. We'll be back here post-game live. You guys already know that. But also, want to shout out another one of our sponsors of today, man, and that is shout out to our sponsors at Rula. Shout out to Rula, new sponsor of the show. And Rula specializes in therapy. This month in November, it is Movember, but Movember is catered to men's mental health awareness. And so that is a big factor, man. Let's not sleep on that. Your mental health is key to having a full and vibrant life, and you got to take care of that, man. So, you know, if you are in need, Rula can help you find a therapist or a psychiatric provider if you need it. And you can just go to Rula.com, use our code KFTV, and Rula patients typically pay $15 per sessions when they're using insurance. So make sure that you connect with quality therapists and mental health experts who specialize in your area of need. And once again, go to Rula.com/KFTV for today's promotion, man. So we definitely appreciate Rula for sponsoring today's show. And hey, you know, mental health is not something that you need to be embarrassed about. You got to take care of it. So, you know, find the right fit without the hassle. And what Rula is going to do is they're going to connect you with over 15,000 licensed therapists and psychiatrists nationwide. They cut out the guesswork by matching you with someone based on your needs, your preferences, your state requirements, so you're not wasting time with the wrong fit. Like I said, sessions for Rula can cost as little as $15, and in some cases, $0, depending on the benefits that you have. So make sure that you get your insurance plan vetted, so you can accurately track the cost. Rula just isn't a directory. They help you book appointments, stay on top of your schedule, and keep track of progress so you actually get somewhere with the therapist. Okay? Thousands of guys have already used Rula to finally get the care they need. Don't keep putting it off. Go to Rula.com/KFTV and get started today. That is RULA.com/KFTV. Take the first step, get connected, and take control of your mental health. Okay. Shout out to Rula for sponsoring today's show once again. And great show, man. Great show today. Shout out to Scoop B for joining us. We had a great session on the NBA Report. Let me shout out a super chat. Somebody hated my start bench cut. Shout out to Jeff Caravella, $5 super chat. Says Dante's shot is not top. I could argue LJ over Starks, but Starks is legendary. Okay, so he agreed with me. Shout out to Jeff. Rich Jim, I want to thank you for the therapy on nights when feeling like hanging up after some devastating losses throughout the years. Appreciate you, Rich Jim. Appreciate you. Another super chat from Jeff says, anyone else remember being shocked when LJ retired? Yeah, it was certainly a shocker. Shout out to LJ. And I did ask him that when I talked to him in an interview, asking him about, there's one thing I always wonder with athletes, how do you handle that cycle or the arc, your career arc? Because LJ was the number one pick. LJ was Zion before Zion. So how do you handle going from being the man entering the league, to having to call it a career abruptly? I remember LJ hurt his back in a pickup game, wasn't even in the league. So that's rough. Definitely rough, man. Gangsta Subliminals, I see, man. All right, man, enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. Supposed to be good weather here in New York on Saturday. I think it's supposed to hit the 60s, so try to get outside and enjoy it, because you know the Hawk is coming, winter is coming, and it's going to be Brick City out here. Holidays, yeah, nice, but it's going to be cooler, so make sure you guys get outside. Keep it positive, keep it peaceful. We'll see you on Sunday, man. Peace.